I'm Connor, of course. Sam, Paddy to my left. You know these gents. I don't need to introduce them. Onel, we should probably start with you. I've got actually, before we get into stuff, a little bit of a trivial question that I felt I probably should have asked you a long time ago, because I've noticed there are kind of two pronunciations of your first name. There's Onel and Onel. Is there one that's right? I realise we were asking you this at the wrong time, really. It should have been at the start rather than at the end, probably.
I don't really mind, to be honest. You just can call me Onel. There's no difference.
Okay, you're happy with both, so
Yeah.
that makes life easier. Let's get into that. I can imagine this week has been quite an emotional one, quite a surreal one for you. I mean, how have the emotions been throughout this week with obviously that news being made public?
It was obviously very emotional. So I was sitting at home and I received so many messages, so many fans, and this is what made me at the end like very sad, because I was sitting at home and like thinking and realizing, is it really the end? Like, is it done now? And I don't know. I had that like those moments when I was sitting in my house by myself, like where I just felt like, oh God, I need to cry now, and I felt like, nah, man, you're not this guy. You know, you don't need to cry. But it is a long time. Norwich is my home, and it was very, 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 very hard for me this week.
And I can imagine you've known for longer than us, obviously. Has it sunk in at any point that you're approaching that final game and that final training session, and has those emotions kind of reached you yet, or not quite?
No, not really. Because coming to the training ground every day, seeing like guys like Marcelinho, Nunez, it's like you can't be like upset because he brings you every minute. You laugh every second with him, you know. Like but I think I enjoy the time right now much more than I will do next week. It will just come next week.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we will talk more with you in a moment. I'm probably going to embarrass you now because I'm going to turn to the guys to my left, starting with Paddy. I mean, eight years at any football club at any point is extraordinary. To have two titles thrown in as well is even more extraordinary. I mean, just give us some of your best moments of Onel in yellow and green.
It's got to be the Forest game on now, I think. I mean, that is still, I can still vividly remember how loud Carrow Road was when those two goals went in. But to be honest, I mean, it's not so much games when I think about Onel and Norwich. It's like the love from these people, and whenever he comes, onto the pitch, or whether he goes to walk down the snake pit, the affection, genuine affection, and that's pretty rare, I think, in the modern game. And that comes from longevity, obviously, but also how he's given of himself, how he's engaged, how he's put himself out there, and just, at times made himself vulnerable, but because he wanted to engage, he wanted to bring us in the media and all these supporters a little bit of a glimpse behind, the scenes which you don't really see nowadays, because obviously, as we know, when one football's gone, there's a little bit of us and them. Understandably, I can see why that is, but he is a bit of a throwback for me because he is embraced Norfolk, embraced everything about living here with his family, and it's far more than Onel Hernandez a footballer. It's Onel Hernandez a person.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is that thing of that connection, isn't it, for with people in the area? Because I think I noticed actually I bumped into you a few months ago when you were injured outside Morrison's actually, and we just had a chat about your injury and stuff, and it did make me realise part of why the fans feel such a connection to you is it's not just them being in a stadium 25,000. It's the one-on-one interactions, and I can imagine when you're a footballer and so many people in this area are interested in Norwich City Football Club. It's probably not easy to stop every time somebody wants to stop and have a conversation with you, but I think I can see from the number of people who must have had those sort of interactions that's why probably they value you as a person. But also we shouldn't lose the footballing ability as well, because we have to remember Onel was obviously a big part of a team, especially in that first Daniel Farke season that I think everyone loved really. It's connected to this club and has scored some really important goals and was a key player in that team, and has gone on to obviously represent this club reliably over a long period of time. So yeah, I think it's credit to Onel how people are reacting to this news, and I'm sure it's sort of brought home that connection, those messages like you mentioned. How many people have contacted you about it?
Thank you.
I mean, because you've played for other football clubs. You've played for other football clubs. You've been in other countries. You've experienced other fan bases. What was it about this one that you attached to, that you really felt at home with?
Is it on? I think.
I've lost you. There you go. Grab that one, and I'll fix this one.
So, from the basically, you know, like in Germany, obviously I've been in a few clubs in Germany, but it was like not so amazing, and I will never go back to Germany. Except when I grew up in Germany, I don't like Germany. I can say in my honest opinion, I don't like Germany. So I always say, like, when the first time, and when I arrived here in the UK, like, I was very scared. I was very scared because my English, I couldn't imagine, like, really, when you go 7 years back, I couldn't imagine sitting here right now and to speak to you guys. Like, my first words was like, I remember when I had the meeting with a physio and he explained me everything, and I say, yes, bye. Like, this was what I say to him. Like, and he was, okay, this guy, wait. But yeah, so, and then from the first moment, when we talk about Morrison's, you know, I walked into a Morrison's. I remember with Dennis Rabani, because we needed to buy something, not to forget also Argos as well, you know, we went
We were going to come on to that.
Yeah, so I went to Morrison's, and so I just bought some food shopping, and the lady, she just said, hey, how are you? How was your day today so far? And I was just, wait, that's weird. I never had it in Germany. Like, are these people here like that?
You don't get it in some parts of the UK. Yeah.
Oh, really? So, well, I'm lucky then. But yeah, that's why Norwich is special, because of those people. Like, the people make it special, and it is a very nice club. It's very familiar. Like, honestly, wherever I went, wherever I go. Hello? Yeah. So I had always a great time, a lot of amazing conversations, and lots of support from the people around here. So that's what it makes for me so special, where I never experienced that, never ever before. Like in Germany, always, as I said, it was not like that. I always had to fight, and the fans be not the same. Like here, this is all like just so special.
And I see it when, you know, I think Paddy or Sam mentioned when you emerged to warm up, there's almost a smile on your face in anticipation of what you're going to get. That is special. Not every footballer has that. So the fact you've been able to forge that, I think, as these guys said, it speaks volumes about how those guys and these guys in this room feel about you. And that it must be special to be kind of held in that regard. I don't know, you'd probably be really modest about it now, but that's not something that every footballer has.
No, of course not. But that's why I'm so grateful as well. Like, you know, that's why for me there are really not a lot of days where I sit down at home and be very negative, you know, like I try to be always positive, and especially when people see you have a bright smile, it makes their day as well, you know, so that's very important.
And I mean, just to come to Jack on Onel, obviously you've played with him now for nearly 2 years. We obviously see the person behind the camera and on the pitch and on the side of the pitch. What's he been like to sort of be in the round for the last couple of years?
Yeah, he's everything that you see, you know, he's exactly how he is on the pitch, just energy, running around, smiling, making people laugh. That's how he is 100% of the time in the training centre. And sometimes you're walking around and you're getting a camera shoved in your face for his YouTube channel. But I can see that's why he has the relationship that he has with his supporters, because as a fan of a club, you want somebody that cares just as much as you do, and they show that both on and off the pitch. So I think that's exactly what Onel does 24/7.
And those qualities in the dressing room as well, I can imagine are important, because everyone's different, and having someone like Onel in there, I can imagine is keeps it lively around the place.
100%. It comes out in both ways. It comes out when we're winning, he shows the support, and also you feel his frustrations when we're not winning as well. There's been instances of that when, because of how much he cares, that frustrations show through, and that's exactly what we need in the change room to make sure everyone cared as much as that. Then, you know, you'd like to think the club would probably be in a better place.
Onel, just to come back to you finally, and then we will move it on, I promise, and we won't make tonight all about you. But in terms of the footballing memories, obviously there's Forest, there's the 2 title wins. Is there anything in particular that stands out to you?
Yeah, definitely the 3-1 win against Ipswich.
Simple as that. Simple as that. Not everyone scored against them, so yeah, that's good stuff. And guys, I guess to come back to you, it's going to be able to get Onel on Saturday, obviously, of course, and that chance not just to say goodbye to all of you guys, but to the whole of Carrow Road. I mean, that's going to be a special occasion for Onel, for Angus, for Jakob Sorensen as well. So.
Yeah, I think it's nice, and it's obviously different to last season when the club were trying to get into the playoffs. We didn't know what was going to happen, and although I'm sure everyone in this room would rather the playoffs were still alive and Norwich had a bit more to play for going into the last game, I think it is nice that those players, obviously not only Onel but Angus Gunn and Sorensen as well, do get that moment with the fans. So the fact that it's a home game and that they can get that send off is well deserved, and is probably the sort of moment that maybe we need to appreciate a bit more in football. I understand, obviously, I'm a football fan just like everyone else, and I'm desperate to see my team win, but I think moments like that, it's a lot of it is about people, and I think a lot of fans that will be especially clear on Saturday, and it is, as I said, I'm glad that those players will have that moment.
Yeah, I think the hankies at the ready, I think, on Saturday. That's been the press box. But as you were saying there, Sam, I was just thinking, we can all remember the sort of John Ruddy send-off and Wes, Timu, they're just the ones that spring to mind. And they were special occasions because they were all special players in their own right. And Onel and those other guys fall into that category. So, you'd like to think they could go out with a win, but irrespective, I think it's just a final opportunity for us all really to turn up on Saturday and show our appreciation for what they've given in green and yellow.
How many tickets have you shifted? I can imagine there's a fair amount of Hernandez's and various other who are going to be there on Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. There's a few, like obviously my family and a few friends, so they're all happy to see my last ride for Norwich City.
And we will come back to that later, but it would be remiss for us not to talk about obviously the season and just very briefly and what's happened. Jack, just to start with you and last weekend. I don't know who's more shocked, you guys or us, when we walked into the hotel on Friday and sort of bumped into each other. I think there was mutual shock on both sides. But I didn't see what you had for breakfast, but you must have had quite the breakfast because you ran hard and fast and a lot last weekend.
Yeah, I think people have been saying I was playing on the right way. It was just the right, I think. I just had that to myself, and for me, I enjoyed it. I enjoy that, and that's probably one of the strengths of my game, to be able to get up and down. So it was nice to be able to show that last week.
Because you were a winger at sort of at the start of your career, so those qualities, and we've seen what you do from an attacking perspective, that is never... My mic's died. Are we back? No? Are we back now? We're back now. There we go, we're back. How long for? Who knows? But I was going to say that those qualities are what we kind of associate with you anyway, so is it a role that you enjoy, having that freedom to sort of be more advanced and be more attacking?
Yeah, third place at Jack Wilshere, I think, was going back watching Carrow in 2014. I think that was the last time I played the Pride Wing. But yeah, like you said, getting forward is something I enjoy. So yeah, it works to my strengths on there.
It's been... I've gone again, haven't I? There we go. I was going to say it's been a hectic week for everybody. I think when Diane spoke to me about this, I was a bit like, I'm not quite sure what there will be to talk about. But clearly now there's a lot to talk about, which we're not all of which we're going to go into tonight. But it's been a busy few weeks and a hectic few weeks for everybody. Last weekend and the response that obviously you showed, the result that you got, how important was that obviously for these guys and probably for the group as well?
Yeah, I think for both. I think first we always spoke about giving the fans something to really be positive and enthusiastic about, because probably in the last few months there hasn't been that many times. So that was one of the main things we wanted to show, and just also to get the pride and infuse everyone back in the group to try and end the season on the positive, to going forward into the next one, basically.
Fantastic. There we go. I was going to ask you about Jack Wilshere. We're down to one mic. We're one mic here. It's okay. I was going to ask you about Jack Wilshere, and clearly, he's someone that you played with at Bournemouth and a massive name in football. Did you see at that stage that he was going to go into coaching and kind of had that eye? And like you say, watching games back from 2014 and unlocking that, that's quite sort of in-depth stuff, isn't it? And quite detailed.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he did go into depth, but yeah, kind of player. We played at Bournemouth. I think the first thing I remember is thinking about how humble he was in terms of everything he achieved in his career. And he was towards the end of his footballing career then, but he didn't come with any ego. He was very willing to help out the young lads, pass on advice. So I didn't necessarily know that he would go into coaching, but you could see all the qualities needed were already there for him then. And I think after that, you can see that he's tried to go about coaching the right way and almost work with Arsenal youngsters first, and then coming to learn under a first team manager himself. So I think I can see what the qualities are there, and I've definitely seen even progression coming in as well.
And I mean, in terms of the kind of soft skills as well, and putting some energy back in the group and morale back in the group, it's been a tough run, it's been a tough period for everybody, clearly. What has been sort of the qualities that he's shown? What have been the changes that he's made in training sessions? I mean, I've read some stuff about music in training sessions. I don't know how accurate that is and whether you could clear that up, but is that the sort of thing, sort of the little touches that he's kind of added just to inject a little bit of positivity back into the place?
Yeah, I think it was one of the first things he spoke about was trying to get the positivity, and we've had a good play listening. I don't know if that's someone else playing during the warm-ups, and I don't know, it might sound silly, but it's just those little things that get the atmosphere going for training to make sure that everyone's giving 100%, and I probably use the word too much, but just that positivity back.
And I think that was evident, Paddy, wasn't it? I mean, we were both at the River side, that performance, but more so the reaction to it from the away fans, the positivity of that. These guys will know more than anybody. There have been some difficult away ends and difficult trips to go and applaud supporters. That one was very different last weekend there.
Oh, and the contrast was because almost immediately on the final whistle, you had, it's not an exaggeration, there was a lot of cheering from that away end, in contrast to a lot of home fans were very happy with Borough, because I think they'd blown an opportunity. I think if they won that day, they go into the top six. And the reality is maybe we've felt a little bit the other side of the ledger too often this certainly second part of the season. So it did feel like just an afternoon where Norwich fans could, certainly the ones who've made that trek and that commitment, obviously revel in Ipswich's demise as well. That was always good to throw into the mix for some of the chants. But and you think as well, some of the previous recent away days, Plymouth and Bristol and Burnley as well, that's a hell of a commitment. We're fortunate in what we do. We're paid to be there, but to be actually give you time, give the financial cost, and just feel that you're not seeing what you want to see on the pitch. I think that was a reflection of, because it was a completely committed performance from those players that day, and really I think on balance they probably did more than enough to win the game against a team who could have gone into the top six. So we just underlined what that group are capable of producing.
Yeah, I think it was also, I mean, we've rightly spoken a lot about sort of commitment and work ethic in relation to that game. I think that was the most important thing, because everyone's been, so it's been such a negative mood around the club in the last few weeks. But I also thought technically, actually, that there were a lot of things. Defensively, it looked a lot more sound. Technically, the way that they moved the ball up the pitch, it felt like there was just a little bit more quality and a bit more zip. So it'll be interesting to see actually what things look like this weekend, which obviously we'll discuss. But it'll be interesting to see how they look, because obviously you get that initial first game under Jack Wilshere, and there is that burst of energy, and I'm sure obviously players would always try as hard as they can, but just that almost that mental positivity that comes from a little bit of change. So it'll be interesting now that we've had that first game, what things look like against Cardiff, because I thought it wasn't just putting bodies on the line or working hard. There were some technical and tactical things that I thought were headed in the right direction as well. So it'll be interesting against a team that the Norwich really are expected to be at home, what they can produce.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of wrap up this section, gents. I mean, how are your two questions really? I guess the season generally clearly hasn't gone. There we go. Clearly hasn't gone the way you guys would like. A, what are kind of your reflections on it, and B, what are the aspects that I know now clearly it's going to be without you this next part, but I'm sure you've seen even aspects around the club, some of the young players that do provide hope for the future next season and beyond as well. Jack's got a mic in his hand, so.
First of all, paper, I think maybe we're biased, but we've got two players in the team in the season. We've got other players that you would put in most of the teams in this league. So I think the squad on paper is a good one. Plus the young players coming through, which is why it's probably so frustrating that we feel that we've really underachieved what we could have this season. Like you said, there's been some really good performances from young players that show what they are capable of, and you just hope going into the next season that consistency can be brought, and and that we can get the best out of the squad that we have and really challenge the way we think we can be.
Onel, I mean, yeah, same point to you really, but more in terms of looking forward, what are the aspects in that first team group, some of the younger players, some of the players that are going to be here next year that should give these guys some real positivity heading into next season?
Yeah, so if I'm honest, I've seen a lot to think about next season. I think the players that we got, really the young lads, like they're very talented. Like honestly, in the last 3 years, if I remember those guys like Max Aarons, Jamal Lewis, Ben Godfrey. Oh, sorry, I can't call him because he's not even. Yeah, but he was still. He came from the youth, so yeah, Todd Cantwell, like players like that. I think we still got like with Oscar Schwartau, Force, and much more. Like we got really good young talented player that could benefit us, especially next year. And I know self with Ante, he's injured at the moment, but he came back this week. He's a brilliant player as well, brilliant character. And also, I know a lot of people being frustrated with Jurasek, yeah, like because everyone say I seen it, and I want to say something to that because everyone's saying like he costs so much money, and why is he? You know, I seen like everyone's seen him playing like 45 minutes, 50 minutes. I think Hull away it was, and he showed what he's capable of.
Yeah,
He was amazing, you know, and it's not easy I just want to say it's not easy for a player to come from another country into basically the UK. Like I remember when I came, you know what I told you guys, it's not easy, the language, everything. So he needs a bit of time, and people need to respect that because he is a talented young player, and I'm pretty sure he will next year show everyone what he's capable of, you know. But people sometimes need to have, with those kind of players that come from abroad, a bit of patience. And I think he's a brilliant person. And I say, like, for the future, I think Norwich got a lot of young, amazing talent there.
Just on him very quickly, because there are parallels, as you said, with you and him. And how important was that period? You joined Norwich in the January, and you almost got kind of that 6 months to bed in, to understand the Championship. How big a period was that for what you then did the year after, clearly with that title season?
To be honest, I was very lucky, you know. I was very lucky because I remember before I came to Norwich, I met another club. It was Brentford in London. So
You made the right decision, right?
Oh, 100%. 100%. No, the thing is like, so I met the club, but you know, because my German background, I arrived and I was thinking, I met Farke, by the way, Farke that time, and with Stuart, I remember it was in the Holiday Inn here.
I think there was some photos, wasn't there?
I don't remember, but I met him there at the Holiday Inn, and to be honest, Farke, he lives like basically 20 minutes from my area where I'm from, you know. But I never heard about him. Like I played OC football there, and he was a coach, like I don't know, in a third division or something like that with Borussia Dortmund second team, and he played football as well. I remember like back here in the changing room, he was always talking about his times as a striker. He was amazing. Like I don't know where he played, but somewhere in a fifth division or something like that, you know. But I was sitting there with Stuart, and he just said to me, "Do you remember me from back in the day?" I said, "What? No, I don't." And it was quite funny, you know. But yeah, so from those days, like for me, I was very lucky because the guy spoke German, so I understood, and it was like Stiepermann, Ranjic, Tribo, Farke, the whole like the Germans, you know, called them the Germans. They've been there, and that's why it was easy. But also, so many Germans. But also that's why it was so easy for me. But when I arrived here, I needed to see everything. I didn't know where I was. I barely went out because I was scared. I didn't know how to buy stuff or whatever. So I can imagine for him it's a bit difficult as well. When we try to make it for him as comfortable as we can, but sometimes, you know, when he drives back home, sit in his flat, what then? You know, like, and that's the thing. It's very difficult for a player like that, but it takes time. And I think he will definitely be a very good player for next season.
Absolutely, that's good to hear. Jack, let's come on to you then, and obviously speak about some of the work you've done this season. We kind of started the chat with Onel speaking about community, about connecting with people. So I guess a similar question to you. What is it about the CSF, the Community Sports Foundation, the work that they did that kind of made you want to get involved, I suppose? And when was that kind of first exposure to the work that they do in Norfolk?
Yeah, I think originally I knew very little. It was actually the takeover day last season, maybe February or March, and did a little bit of filming for the foundation, met a couple of the kids, and I was just asking questions. And I was really intrigued to the kind of work they did, and I suppose being the CEO, just basically asked him, how can I help? How can I do a little bit more to try and support the work they do? He showed me a timetable of all the different schedules and different groups they ran throughout the week, and I just sort of, at first I would just go and visit one at a time to see what I felt that I could make an impact, and went down to the nest, and I was blown away, to be honest. It's like a championship level
training ground.
Yeah, championship level training ground that provides all these different services for really young to all the different supports, walking trouble for the elders and the Alzheimer's group. So yeah, I ended up going with the pan disabled kids and playing football with them, and then learning more about their stories. And as I go back week after week, I just felt almost more of a connection with the kids and started to learn about their journeys, and then they would open up to me a little bit more, and I felt like I could make a positive difference there. And to be fair, then it was never going to stop me going. Every week I would turn up and be greeted with smiles, and he'd be happy to see me and happy that a player that they see on the pitch here would come and help them with a little bit of football, and then it just showed me a platform that we probably have as players to be able to make that difference. So once I realised that, I wanted to do as much as I could after that, really.
And you speak about the positive impact that you can have on them. I'm sure they've had a profound impact on you as well, and some of those relationships you form must be really special to you.
Yeah, 100%. And it's probably hearing the stories from their parents, and I'll talk about how well they've done, and they'll tell me about how maybe they would struggle in mainstream environments, but from coming to these sessions that the foundation put on, it's allowed them to progress outside of the sessions that we do, and going back into schools and playing for their local football teams. And also I'll see them at the stadium, and they'll be in the front row, shouting for me. And I think this is similar to what Onel does, just having that interaction between the players and the fans and bridging that gap. I think that's really important, and it's definitely helped me.
I can imagine the feedback from them is useful at times.
Useful, yeah. The kids are very honest, very, very honest. So yeah, I know at times I might turn up and have some stern words, and then when I score a couple of goals, they were loving me. So I won't be happy anymore.
I'm sure they were full of praise for your performance last week. I mean, Paddy, we've both got kids of a similar age, both of which have at different points been exposed to some of what the foundation do. It is, as Jack says, so varied. It is a dementia group, and it is 5-year-olds and introducing them to sport and football. It's a wonderful programme that they kind of offer to the community, a local community, obviously all under Norwich City's name.
Yeah, I mean, to echo what Jack said about the nest as a facility, I remember, I think it might have been when it was expanding, going and attending Open Day, and Louis Thompson was there, Jay Comfrey obviously is very active in what they're trying to do there, and like him, you pull in off the road there by the airport, and that is an amazing facility. And my lad's going to a birthday party actually there at the Challenge Woods on this coming Sunday, so not too keen on heights. I'm going to have to go down a zip wire, I think. So, but it is, I mean, and you can imagine, when Jack and anybody of that status, if you're a Norwich fan, particularly a small person who's a Norwich fan, then to see, I'm sure the eyes light up. But then he's probably giving as much back as he's getting, and that's just why, for me, as coming from the Midlands and now my life here, married, 2 kids, sort of maybe I have a slightly different perspective, but it is a special place, it is a special club, and obviously it's been recognised recently with the Community Award. Obviously Jack won an award as well. That takes some doing, because you can imagine, what you see here is obviously lots of other clubs up and down the land are trying to emulate it, but clearly by the fact that they're getting recognised, it just shows you how important that is and how embedded it is in the community now, because as Jack listed there's so many groups who probably go there now, and that's their highlight of their week, and to have that interaction with other individuals, it's just for me, it's, as it's coming from an outside perspective, it's why Norwich is such a special club. I think.
Yeah, I think one of the things I found interesting that actually Hannah said a few weeks ago about Jack and his sort of work with the CSF was that you're not really the sort of person who maybe looks for the credit and that sort of thing. And I was looking the other day through the actually Jack Wilshire's list of the page where you can give him money for the marathon that he did the other day. obviously there was this list of donations which I'd recommend. It's quite interesting reading. And there was loads of players on there, and Jack was on there, and he was one of the very few who actually didn't put how much it was. I thought it might have been a tiny amount, so that might have been what it was. But I thought that sort of echoed what Johannes said a few weeks ago about that. So then when you get an award like you have, a couple of awards now, I mean, how does that feel for you to be recognised for something like that? Does that feel a bit strange if you're somebody who who doesn't necessarily seek the credit?
Yeah, I think I had a few conversations with Ian when he first told me about it, which, you know, I had mixed emotions, to be honest, because it's not the reason why I bow down, and I've seen the impact it had, and for me that's more than enough to do it. But he sort of reframed it to me that it's the platform that we have as footballers to try and shine the light on what the foundation does. So if I can look at it from that light, that's why I was happy to try and promote that and be given a platform to do that. But yeah, I think everyone that works down there, and also just because I'm a player that goes down there, for me it doesn't make any difference. There's so many volunteers and so many guys that do great work, so it didn't feel right for me to individually get the credit for that. But if I could help shine a light on stuff they do, and obviously the money that you guys raised, I see the work that's done with that and all the good work, so I almost made that my mission to try and promote that rather than myself individually.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you to clap again because Jack got another award today. I don't want to play off against former clubs, but is it something, because again, like Onel, you've been to other places, you've seen the brilliant work that other club foundations do, but in terms of the county-wide and sort of the variation of activities that they do, is the CSF kind of the most diverse one, the biggest one that you've come across so far?
Yeah, I'd say two things stand out. So first is probably like you said, the amount of different groups that have done, and all different age groups, all different abilities, or whatever it is, there's somewhere for them to get involved. And also I think when I go down to the sessions, there's 90% of the people are in Norwich shirts, so it shows how embedded the club is within the community, whereas other clubs have been at, it's all very mixed and there's not necessarily that togetherness that the club brings. And the fact that there's so many fans of Norwich, that means having the club attached to the foundation can make such a big difference.
Yeah, I'm sure I speak for everyone in this room. So thank you for doing that work. It's amazing that you do that work, and you know, clearly you only have to look on social media at the videos that have been released of the guys speaking about you to show how much it means to them. So yeah, well done again on those awards, and absolutely deserved as well. Now, I appreciate this is a bit of a gear change, Jack, but do you have a favourite high street shop? Anyone in particular you like to visit, or you know, on a day off would be your go-to choice?
Maybe I should take over Argos.
Argos, funny you should mention Argos. Onel, clearly we've got to speak about this. I mean, they've kind of been moved into Sainsbury's and stuff now, haven't they? Which is, you know, it's fantastic. They're still going, but I mean, have they ever given you a call at any stage about ambassadorial duties or anything like that?
Nah, not anymore. I think they had enough. But no, yeah, I was pretty sad because my special one at Riverside was gone. And that's the first one where I went into to buy all the stuff, the furniture for my house, my flat, and yeah. But yeah, as you've seen, like when you walk into Sainsbury's, they're still around, and I still go to Argos, so it's a difference.
Any particular? Well, I guess the fact they sell everything helps, but is there any particular purchase that stands out from Argos that you're particularly pleased with?
Well,
sofa, anything like that?
everything. I've got everything. So, and if not, then they deliver to your house. So it's perfect, you know.
I hope you're getting commission. That's the point. Look. Clearly, I can imagine when you sat down to do that programme interview and you said that, you probably didn't expect 8 years later for it to still be brought up. I spoke to Dan Brigham about this. He did that interview and used to work for the club. I'm not sure he expected it to maybe take on the life of its own it's had. But I guess again, you talk about personality. It's kind of a nice insight into your personality, that, isn't it?
100%. It was like it. And I remember as well, like I got like all these catalogs sent to the training ground, like from so many fans, and it was just really a fun experience, that's for sure.
Were you around when they had the little pens?
with the little, no, that was like,
They moved to pencils, but they used to be blue pens. There's no police officers in the room. I'm about to say. But when I was 6 or 7, I used to basically, I didn't go and nick sweets. It used to be into Argos, big handful of pens in the pocket. I can't tell you what I did with them. But
that kind of guy you are, yeah?
yeah. So there's some nice memories for Argos there as well for me. Look, we'll clearly speak about kind of your life now, which is it's a remarkable journey that you've had from Cuba into Germany, into England, playing Premier League, first Cuban to score in the Premier League as well. I mean, sitting here now, obviously you can reflect a lot more being where you are in terms of your spell at Norwich, but that young boy who was in Cuba in Germany, I mean, what would he think of what you've done with your life and your career sitting here now? It's quite a deep question, that, sorry. But...
Yeah, you just brought me back, like, my mind, like, when I was 4 years old. So, yeah, it's just, it's crazy because, as I said, like, when I was 4 years old, I remember when because this was one of the worst experiences in my life, I grew up, obviously, with my grandmother, and my mom, she was already in Germany, and so I can't quite remember that my mom was around me. I was just living my life with my grandmother and her son, and then somehow one day they told me, like, you will fly now to Germany, and
did you have to go by yourself?
Yeah, with my sister, but my sister was not living with me. My sister was living with my great grandmother, something like that. Like, yeah, she was living with her. So, but I didn't saw her a lot of times. But I was obviously with my grandmother, and then somehow we got just a call, like, because my mom then brought us with my stepfather. That obviously he's the one that I have to thank the most, because without him, like, he's not my dad, he's just my stepfather, and he just gave me the chance for a better life, and especially also put me in football. Without him, I wouldn't be never sitting here. That's the first thing. And then obviously, into the plane, and I was just crying the whole way because I didn't know what was happening. I was 4 years old, and I was crying. And the nasty thing is, like, the woman from the airplane, there was so many cars, and I saw them, and she was telling me, like, if you be quiet and fly normal, like, you can have one of those cars. And
It sounds like a lot of my parents intended.
For a second, yeah, great, but for the rest of the flight, it was horrible. And then when I obviously arrived in Germany, I see my mom, but I remember sitting in this car and then seeing because Cuba is completely different. And then you see all these massive buildings. I was feeling like it's a different dimension, like, so different. And yeah, from that point then on, obviously all the football, the career, just incredible. And before I came to Norwich, obviously I was thinking, like, there was times where I always thought, like, it doesn't make sense, like, being a footballer, keep going, where you was thinking always, you know what, maybe just let it, don't keep playing, because you will never make it into a big stage or whatever. And but I had a few people that always believed in me. This was my family, and obviously my agent as well, and a few coaches that always approached me and told me, look, believe in yourself, work hard, and everything is possible. And then somehow with the intention, obviously with the believing that I had to come to Norwich City and to believe that I will make it into the Premier League, this was a dream, but if you work for it, if you give everything for it, everything is possible. And it worked out unbelievable. Like, I remember when that year when I was sitting in a change room, I remember Mario Vandits, Stiepermann, everyone next to me, and we looked every week in our faces before we got promoted. And I remember, like, Stevie saying, hey, is it real? And Mario, is it true? Are we getting promoted? And we sitting there, like, just unbelievable,
We speak about connections, and I think that is why that group still is remembered so fondly, because of the achievement, first and foremost, because of the group. It was guys like yourself who had a long journey, who had plenty to prove, people to prove wrong, and they did it as a collective. That must have been really powerful at that time, to have that in the dressing room behind that cause of trying to win promotion.
100%. Me, myself as a young player, I was like 24, 25 years old, and you had, like, in the change room, Alex Tete, that always was smiling as well. What a legend, honestly, like, players like that. And it just, honestly, they just made the difference, because you need sometimes when you have obviously young players like we had, and then middle-aged players, but experienced players, you need the mix and you need characters in a change room. If you don't have that, it's very difficult. And with those guys, special guys, you had it, and it was just an incredible time with them.
Yeah, I mean, Paddy, I was in the stands then, but you covered that group. It was a special group to follow, to cover, to be in and around, let alone be sort of sat in the dressing room, I can imagine.
Oh yeah, I mean that was, yeah, and each season that passes, I find now it becomes even more special, because when you live it, when you're in it, obviously that's slightly removed, but Onel there giving those insights into the dressing room. But when you're in it, you probably think, oh, and they did, to be fair, although that was the pandemic season, sadly, and nobody was able to save that second title win. But then when you've had 2 in 3 seasons, you think they're going to come again, and sadly since then it's been far more of a struggle. So it just puts on a pedestal that group, Onel, those players, that head coach team. And as Onel said there, it was so unexpected, and that's what made it. And I'm sure, not speaking on behalf of any fan in this room, but that made it such a memorable journey that we could all live it with them, and what a ride that was. Yeah, I mean the Blackburn game for me, when I think he probably got promoted that night, wasn't it? Yeah, the scenes inside the stadium, and then even the open top bus, and like Hanley nearly falling out the side of the bus because he was being perched. But I don't know what they said was how many were in and around the city, 50, 60,000, whatever. But yeah, it just gives you a bit of we'd all love to be part of that again, and hopefully, in the not too distant future, that will be the case. But I just want to say one thing actually, because as Onel was talking about his journey there, and goes back to what I said earlier about him and how he's put himself out there. I just want to say that was a beautiful vlog he did when you went back on international duty recently, and I think you took your little daughter to see, was your grandmother?
Yeah.
I mean, I've lost family in the sort of pandemic, and the emotion came through there. So I thought that was for you to sort of show us that, and your family was just says everything about you as a man, I think.
Yeah, so, sorry to jump in, Sam. I mean, I was going to ask you about playing for Cuba, representing Cuba, because that's clearly something that's been very special for you. Obviously there's been difficulties throughout your career, and sort of whether you're eligible or not because you played outside of Cuba for a period and the rule changed. How special was that? I know it was a bit of a roller coaster to get there, wasn't it, on the first journey? I think it was a difficult journey to actually physically get there. But in terms of representing Cuba, how special has that been? Clearly, it's something that being at Norwich City and having that profile clearly has helped with.
Yeah, 100%. Back in the day, it was very difficult because obviously, I don't know, I have to be careful what I say here. Cuba is a beautiful country, but it's also very difficult there. And obviously, it was difficult to find the right persons that. My mom did everything. She went in there and just talked to everyone that was responsible for the national team and for all the sports in Cuba, and they didn't believe that I was literally Cuban. But I was born in Cuba and I had my Cuban passport. And then with the coach back in the day, it's Pablo Elia. Because Cuba didn't use a lot of foreign players, they always used players from their own country. So he then make it possible for players like me, for foreign players to come and play for Cuba. And it's just incredible, because I feel like they got so many talented players. And I remember myself when I went a few times back there, you see those kids playing on the street with no even football boots, just barefoot, and kicking the ball, and you see how much they love football. And Cuba is normally a country where football isn't so big, because there's more boxing, baseball and stuff like that. So, and over the years now, it's changed a lot, with more people coming and more children want to play football. Some families can't afford, basically, some baseball, a bat or something like that, and they just give them a ball, and you got 12 kids can play with one football, So it changed over the years, and for me, it just, who doesn't want to represent his own country where he's from? And I'm so proud of that, and also grateful to have that opportunity, to be honest, and still have the opportunity to always go back, see my family as well, and represent the country, because I know 100% that in the next few years, we will see, hopefully, more Cubans playing around the world. What already happens, most of them are in Costa Rica, Mexico, and everything. We got a guy now, he's in Italy, plays in Torino in a first team, second team. and there's a guy in Portugal. So they're coming like really across, and I hope in a few years that I'm not the only Cuban that played in the Premier League. I hope there will be much more after me.
Yeah, and just to bring Jack in on that point, shows the kind of power of football, doesn't it? That you can bring, I mean, you got Jose Cordoba as well, Panama, from all over the place, and put a bunch of guys in a dressing room. I can imagine that at times that must be quite daunting, but there's something quite lovely about that as well, because I'm sure your paths otherwise wouldn't have met if it wasn't for football.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's one of the things I love about football the most is there is no barriers. It's almost like wherever you're brought up or born in the world, if you're a good enough player, you would like to think hopefully that you can get your opportunity. And you look at any championship game, premiership game, and if you would trace back the roots of all those players, it's amazing to see. And yeah, even hearing the stories from I know that I hadn't heard before it brings into perspective how powerful football can be. It can change lives, it can change communities, and I think that's part of the reason why everyone loves it so much.
Yeah, and I mean, for you, there would have been a lot of sacrifice in your career, and clearly a lot of rejection as well. All footballers have to put up with that. So it's always difficult to speak about yourself, I appreciate. But in terms of your own journey, how sort of proud are you of yourself and of your career that you've kind of established?
Yeah, I think, like I said, this is what I try and teach to the kids that I go and see. And in the summer, I'll go back to my old school and try and say the same thing, is that whenever you look at players in the first team of any club, unless it's Leo Messi's or Lamine Yamal, it's very rarely straight line at all. And there's so much behind the story of each individual player, and that's why I love speaking to teammates and asking about them, because from the outside you can assume that it's so easy and now they're playing first team and doing well, but there's so many stories of rejections and failures along the way, and I think everybody can use that as sort of motivation for sure.
Absolutely, and Sam, it kind of shows the power of this football club as well, to give Onel the opportunities he has, to give other players the opportunities they have. It's a really valuable thing, isn't it, football, and these connecting powers. I mean, we spoke earlier with Jack and kind of his community work, but even kind of beyond that.
Yeah, definitely, and especially with the geography and the circumstances around this club. Obviously, there's they say absolutely nothing anywhere near it. So for so many players from all over the world, as you said, to end up in this relatively remote part of the world, all in one dressing room, I think it does sort of define the club, and I think that's what makes it so different. That's why some of those community elements sort of come into it as well. That it is so different to other clubs in that way. And yeah, I think that's probably part of what attracts players. I think you have to also just give credit to the footballing staff and some of the decisions that have been made over really a sort of longer term period of time now as well. Because as great as the place is, I think footballers mainly want to have a football club that they can buy in, that they feel is going places, and I think that's also probably, to be honest, why it's important to get back on the right sort of trajectory, because it's been too long for this club really not to be in and around the Premier League and competing for that, because I think you've seen from dressing rooms prior, and a lot of players who are at Norwich now will be there because of the Premier League and how successful this club has been before. So I think it's a bit of a mix between the off the pitch elements and what's going on the pitch. But yeah, there is definitely that unique element to this club that I think does attract players. Yeah.
Right, we're kind of approaching the end of our time now. So, I mean, if we kind of look ahead to Saturday, clearly the season ender, Jack. I mean, how important is it for you guys as a dressing room, as a squad, to kind of finish on a high note? Because people will look at that game, one team already relegated, one that's not going to go up or go down, but it still feels like quite an important way for you to kind of sign off, obviously, here in front of your fans as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think we what we spoke about all week is how important this game is, potentially not a paper, but to us as individuals to get pride going, to give the fans something to be proud of, to almost give thank you to the fans for their support throughout the season, even in tough times. So yeah, it's definitely not an end we're going to be taking lightly.
And in terms of the type of game that you're expecting, but I can imagine it can be really difficult to predict now because their relegation has been confirmed. That can sometimes go one of two ways. So what are you sort of expecting from them as an opponent, as a challenge?
Yeah, like you said, I think it's very, very hard to predict. So probably the only thing we can do is focus on how we're going to set our tournament. The difference probably from last week in terms of maybe we're a little bit more direct, but trying to be as constant as possible, trying to take more risk to get into the final third a little bit quicker, and we hope that will be shown to the pitch.
Yeah, it feels like it's going to be a slightly different game picture, doesn't it? Because unlike last week, maybe there's going to be more onus on you guys to break down Cardiff, to try and create. So does that require as much of a shift in mindset as kind of what we were speaking about earlier in terms of those sort of fundamentals and energy and positivity and those type of things?
Yeah, I think so. I think we have to definitely emphasize that maybe we might not score after 10, 20 minutes, but it's happened at times this season, especially at home when we've been dominating in teams and probably got a little bit frustrated we hadn't scored, and then end up getting hit on the counter or teams scoring against us, and that's when results haven't gone our way. So it's definitely have a little bit of patience, but making sure we're solid at the back and that we know that we should create things going forward.
Onel, we're going to have to look ahead to that game. I mean, it's difficult to kind of put yourself in the middle of that pitch now and the final whistle going and what the emotion is going to be like. But I guess is it one that are you going to cry, basically, is the question I want to ask. Is it going to be a tough one for you to get through, or are you a crier? I don't know.
I'm normally not a crier, that's for sure, but because I said, I try to be a very positive and happy person. I don't know, it's definitely, obviously, like, it was already an emotional week for me, and I don't know how, I don't look forward to it, to be honest, because it's just not, I don't know, not what, like, to think about that, like, I don't really put so much thoughts into it because it will definitely make me cry. So I don't know, I would see, obviously, it's sad, it's a sad moment, a moment that I will obviously never forget in my life, because being in a club for 7 years is just, I don't know, it's not like normal, like most of the time players leave like after 2 years. And being so long somewhere, especially like Norwich, it's hard to just take, and obviously I will never forget that. So I will definitely, I don't know, stay a bit longer on the pitch and realize what really is going on. But yeah, I will obviously, as I said, I will be always grateful for you guys and thankful for everything what you did for me and always being supportive. And that shows how really special this club is, and not just for me, for Jack, for every player that comes to Norwich City, understand how special this club is, the people, because this club is like really like a family, and the area, we all are very lucky to be here as a football player. And yeah, because sometimes, as a football player, you move on, you come for maybe half the season, you are a long player, and sometimes you don't realize how special the places are. But I think everyone that comes to Norwich knows straight away, like, look, this is different and this hits different, and that's why. So I'm so grateful. Jack is grateful. The whole team is grateful. As you see Marcelino, every day he is smiling, like he appreciates every moment here. So thank you all for coming today, for your support, and yeah, we love you all.
Well, that seems like a nice place to leave it. So thank you to Onel, Jack, and obviously all the guys at the fan social club as well. Thank you all very much for being here tonight. We really appreciate it. Thank you all.